10th of February 1995 at Elizabeth Bay. Mervyn, what year were you born in?
I was born in 1930.
And whereabouts were you born?
I was born in St Margaret's Women's Hospital, which is now closed. My parents lived in Darlington at the time.
Oh. And did you grow up in Darlington?
Yes.
What are your earliest memories?
Oh, the depression, always being short of food and having much food. And unfortunately my father drinking too much. It caused a lot of strife in the family.
Did you have any brothers and sisters?
2 brothers.
Were they older? Or?
No, I was the oldest in the family.
Right. And how close after you were the 2 brothers?
Oh, 8 or 9 years.
Oh, there was
between the gap, yes.
Right. And do you think that, was that because of the depression that you...
Oh, I have no idea. My parents never discussed it with me.
Cause that's quite unusual, that
yes,
kind of
most
gap.
unusual, yes. Yeah.
What kind of house did you live in Darlington?
Oh, it was a 2-storey brick house.
Was it a terrace?
Yes.
Where was it?
In Raglan Street, near the Sydney University.
Is it still there?
As far as I know, yes. I haven't been there for a long time. And the university owns Darlington, most of it, and has taken most of it over for its own purposes.
Did your parents own it, or were they...
No, we rented.
And how long did you live there?
From the time I was 3 to the time I was 29 when I first got married.
It's a long time. What kind of a kid were you?
I was very quiet and introverted. I was very small, and because I wore glasses, the other kids made fun of me and picked on me. I wasn't very big and strong. So it made me more introverted.
Were you small because of nutrition deprivation and the depression?
Mostly, yes.
It really was because of that?
Yes, a lot of it, yeah.
Were your brothers, did they grow bigger?
No, I was the tallest in my family, including my parents.
Oh, there must have been a bit of genetics in that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, what kind of a place was Darlington for kids in the 30s?
Not very good. Just generally depressed in every sense of the word.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there weren't really playing facilities, or there was a park not too far away, but they didn't have proper playing sporting fields or that sort of thing, and there was no organised sporting teams of that there.
So what did you do in your spare time?
Nothing very much. I read a lot.
And did kids play in the street?
Oh yes, yeah. Day and night, or after school,
Yeah.
Stayed up late at night and played. The only place you could play, really.
Was it safe?
Oh, I don't know. You never thought of it in those days. You didn't know anything else.
But I mean, in terms of traffic, now if you played in the streets, you'd get run over.
Oh, this is a side street with not such a great deal of traffic. The main street was just a short distance away. We didn't play there.
And what sort of games would kids play?
Oh, hide and seek, and I can't remember the other things. Just tried to race each other and things like that. Mostly hide and seek, and just hanging out around. They call it these days. Hanging out.
So you were the oldest in the family. So, what sort of family do you come from? How would you describe your family?
Oh, not a very close family. Not a very happy one. Because of my father's drinking problem, mainly.
What did he do for a job?
He was a mattress maker. He did it by hand.
Where did he work?
At Anthony Horton's, before they closed down. They were at Camden.
And they made mattresses by hand?
In those days, yes. Even up to just after the Second World War.
Really?
Had very long needles about this big.
And what did they stuff them with?
Oh, I don't know, to be honest with you, but I know they used to be bad. He used to cut his hands a lot with them. Because they had sharp ends on both ends, and both ends were sharpened.
The needles?
And
was that his trade? Like, was that a trade?
Oh, I know it's a trade, but that's the best job he could get after the Depression. Or the only job he could get after the Depression.
Well, what about before the Depression? Do you know what how did your mum and dad meet?
No, I don't know that.
Yeah. And
I think just socialising and dancing and things like that, yeah. Not certain.
And where did they come from?
So, my father came from Surrey Hills. I don't know where my mother came from, actually.
But she was a city person?
Oh yes, both Sydney people, yes.
Yeah. And did your mum work?
No, she just did the housework.
Mm.
That was a thing in those days. Just took care of domestic chores and that sort of thing.
And would she have worked before she got married?
Yes, but she was fairly young when she got married. I don't know what jobs she did. I remember that now.
And how long after, like, did you turn up pretty quickly in the first year? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so after that she would have had full-time sort of domestic responsibilities?
Yes. See, we lived with my grandmother, and my mother, well, we used to do that in those days. Families lived together.
Mm. Was that your mother's mother?
My father's mother.
Right. And did you live with them all your?
Yes, yeah, until I got married, yeah.
The grandmother too?
Mm-hmm. It was a big house and lots of bedrooms, and that was a general idea. We had a cousin living there as well.
Gee.
Unheard of these days, but that was the thing in those days.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a close family.
Yeah, but not really. We, went our own way and had different arguments and disagreements. That's all. Weren't really close to each other.
And do people live? These days, people don't live usually with their parents.
Mm.
Was it because of economics?
I would say so.
Yeah.
And probably the custom in those days too.
So you were born in 1930.
Yes.
What would be? Can you remember? You wouldn't be able to remember the worst of the Depression. Can you?
Very, very bad at those times. Yes, because it didn't end of the early 30s or mid 30s, I think.
Well, what do you remember of the Depression?
Well, there wasn't much money around, and you couldn't get a great deal of food because of this. There wasn't much of food around anyway.
You can remember being hungry?
No, not really. But we just didn't have much variety of food, and not the best of food.
And what sort of things would you eat?
It's a bit difficult to remember then. Like in those days, where you mostly had steak, because chicken was too expensive. Now it's changed around the other way. So you had a fair bit of that, and different vegetables and chips and things like that, pies.
Mm. So what would be like a typical evening meal, do you think?
Oh, a meal with meat and different vegetables, and tea or a glass of water for the younger ones.
Mm. Did your father lose his job during the Depression?
Oh, he got that job after the Depression.
Oh,
He had another job and lost that earlier.
Right.
And I don't know what that was. And then he just had to take whatever job he could get for a day or two or a week or two, which everyone else had the same problem.
Mm. And what effect did that have on the family?
Well, I think we're all constantly worried about job security and constant supply of money, or when you're going to get it. Mm. Until we got this job, and it was pretty consistent that then.
Mm. And paying the rent, I guess, would be a big thing.
Mm.
And you can remember, because you, as a child, but you can remember your parents' anxiety.
Yes, yeah. My grandmother worked; she was a cleaner, and used to do 2 shifts. That was the days, I think, of the 48-hour week. Prehistoric.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what sort of a woman was your mother? How would you describe her?
Oh, wasn't a real loving woman to me. She was very devoted to my father. It seems strange, but I think people like that, like a handicap.
And what do you think that was? What do you know? Got any ideas as to, was that just the way people were at
those
that
days?
time?
Yes. Yeah.
Mm. Was she Irish?
No, I'm a third generation Australian of Irish descent.
Right. And
my grandmother originally a McCarthy.
Pardon?
My grandmother was originally a McCarthy.
Right.
And she married a Jordan.
And it's the Jordans that are Irish that you...
Yeah, McCarthy's and Jordans are both Irish names.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got quite a bit of Irish.
Yes.
Well, and what about your father? How would you describe your father?
Oh, very domineering and autocratic. And his only way of, disciplining was for hitting you in violence. Use a strap or something like that, a hand.
Sounds pretty tough.
Was.
Were they religious?
Oh, reasonably, because once my grandmother died, my father stopped going to church. So I think it was only the fact that she was alive that kept him going.
Were they Catholic?
Yes, yeah.
So he went to church, or...
I think he went because of his mother, that was about all. And
did you go to Catholic school?
yes.
Oh, what school did you go to?
I can't remember the one, it was just near the old IXL factory, and then when I was old enough I went to Mars Brothers, St Benedict's at Broadway.
And what was that like, the education experience?
Oh, pretty good, but their brothers were pretty autocratic and demanding, and they spent, like these days, they spent more time teaching religion than everything else, and it didn't prepare you for the outside world.
What about politics? What was the politics of the household?
Labour. Because I think you've got the working class, and that was it.
And were they active? Did they...
No, they just voted at the times when the elections were on, that was all. Same with the local council.
Did you ever hear them talking about events like, well, you would have been a bit too young to hear them talking about Jack Lang, but what about when war broke out and Australia, sent troops to...
Well, my youngest brother was born at the time, and my father waited till he became 12 months old and then volunteered and went in the medical corps.
Oh. Did he have to go in the medical corps because of his age then, or...?
No, they just put him in the medical corps.
Oh, right.
Because he asked what he was in, they said the medical corps, and he said, I don't think about it. They said, that's good, the less you know the better. And that was their attitude in those days.
Gosh.
He saw overseas service.
How was it when he was away?
Oh, it wasn't the best, but yeah.
Did the government make sure that money went to the families of troops, that people whose, the breadwinner was away?
No, not really. No.
Like the women were left to defend and...
I don't remember much about that. They didn't discuss it with me, my parents, the monetary things, that's all.
But you can remember the hardships of the Depression years of not having any money. Was it still hard during the war?
Yes, because it's the beginning of coming out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, my father got his pay during the war and sent money back. Yeah.
But you had to wait for them to send it back.
I can't remember much about it now, unfortunately. But it seemed to me.
Yeah. Can you remember the outbreak of the war?
Yes.
Tell us about that. What can you remember?
I remember that silly fool Chamberlain coming back from Munich with this piece of paper, Peace in Our Time, which I believe that Hitler just turned around as an aide and said, he's such a nice old gentleman, I thought I'd give him my autograph for a souvenir. And then the war started, and it was a terrible thing. We were all worried.
Were you worried? Were people worried at the actual outbreak of the war, or was it only later when the Japanese came in?
Oh, well, we were concerned because we didn't know what was going to happen. And then more so when the Japanese came in, because they were on the way to invade us. They were stopped in the Pacific.
And what was that like then? It must have been pretty scary.
The trouble is, though, in the media, because you mostly had newspapers in those days, and when they had the maps of the battle places, it seemed to be so far away. And when you actually saw the atlases after the war, you realised how close they were. Maybe that was done so that people wouldn't worry too much, I don't know. But you never seemed to think they were close to you. It just seemed to be awfully remote. Life
must have changed quite a bit in Sydney with the outbreak of the war.
Oh yes, there were influx of the armed servicemen and women, and then the Americans came out. They were up the fenders, yes.
What were the Americans like?
Oh, I didn't see much of them. But,
You were living in Darlington, but they would have been crawling all over the city, wouldn't they?
Oh yes, but I didn't go into the city very much.
No?
No. Oh, I suppose, the fairs and that sort of thing, which we didn't have much money, and I just seemed to stay around mostly where I lived. And read,
I was just thinking back.
We watch football on the weekends. That was all. So, I know.
I was just going back into the 30s period when you were a child. What about? Did you ever get sick?
Oh yes, yeah. I was born with. I was born with rickets. The doctors told my parents I wouldn't live to be 12 months old. Then I had measles and whooping cough together when I was 3. That's why I have the glasses. That eye turned right in, and they said they couldn't operate then because when I got older it would just turn again, naturally. Because they didn't have the equipment or the expertise then that we have now. Then I got diphtheria and lost a brother because our council didn't believe in immunisation.
And you had diphtheria?
No, one of my brothers did, but there were a lot of other children with it.
When was that?
Oh, I can't remember now. It'd be fairly in the early 30s, I think.
Well, you were born in 1930.
Yes.
And he was 8 years younger than you. Is that right?
No, he was the third brother. So.
Oh, right. He's the one that hasn't. The one in the middle. Oh, gee. And you never got it?
No, I was lucky.
And what happened? Did he go to hospital?
Yes, and didn't come back.
Which hospital?
Oh, I can't remember now offhand now. I was very little and very upset and worried about it.
When the children went to hospital in those days, did the parents go and stay with them, or were they expected to leave them?
Oh, well, especially in a case with an infectious disease like that, yes.
They just leave the children there?
Yes, well, that's like going to hospital any time, I suppose. You know, and, the nurses and that have to look after them, and then you can visit at certain times. That was a highly infectious disease.
Oh, yes.
In those days.
And so your mother, was she with your brother when he died?
Both parents were, from memory.
Yeah. That must have been a terrible thing.
Yes, because I believe they get this rattle in the throat and they choke. It's very, not very pleasant. Oh, I suppose any death would have to be pleasant, but that certainly wouldn't be.
And how old was he when that happened?
Oh, I think he was about 5 or 6. I can't remember offhand. Now it's a long back. And things like that just sort of tend to shut out your memory because they're unpleasant.
And what was the impact on your family life?
Oh, we were all very upset for quite a while and very annoyed with the council for not doing anything.
Because council should have been...
They just did not believe in immunisation. They said it wasn't necessary. It was only after I lost my brother and then several others got took ill and people put a lot of pressure on them and they decided to do something.
Did your parents pressure council or join in any campaign?
There was no campaign, but just people went and complained to the council. They were run by 2 families that were butchers, butcher shops, and they just did things as they wanted.
The council was run?
Yeah, well, they had the most influence, and they had the most members, sort of thing, and that sort of thing.
Where was the Labor Party? They weren't into local government then?
Oh, probably not. I can't remember now, no. And, there was most of them was on the council and they just ran things to suit themselves.
Chamber of Commerce types?
Some of the years. And then later on when they were defeated, they threatened all sorts of reprisals. They're going to come back the next time and get on the council again and do all sorts of things. We never saw them again. They moved out of the district.
Really? Well, what else? And so that was in the 30s? And what council was it? Because the council areas are all sort of chopped and changed
I can't
around.
remember now. I didn't know those things in those days. I was too young to know. But I just remember that these had 2 butcher shops at each end of the suburb, and most of them on the council, and they just ran everything to suit themselves and their friends.
Right. And that was 2 separate families?
Yes, yeah.
Gee. And what else did you hear about anything else about how that council behaved?
No, but just remember that. It's the sort of thing that sticks in your mind when these things could have been avoided. But generally they weren't popular, so I don't know how they kept getting you re-elected.
Yeah. And were you able to go and visit your brother in hospital?
No. Obviously I could be affected by it being at that young age.
Yes. And nobody else in your family got it?
No, I wasn't.
Did you ever get sick and end up in hospital or have any accidents?
Oh, yeah, I had an appendix out and my tonsils out and things like that.
And what years was that in?
Oh, I say the 30s and 40s and things like that.
And what was the hospital experience like in those days?
Oh, well, being a quiet little boy with very few friends, I was very lonely and worried. And Unfortunately, the type of operation I did on the tonsils then, they grew again. I still got them. But then, as I say, they didn't have the instruments and the expertise to do the things like they do now. That was a common occurrence.
My understanding is that, like in those days, they used to reuse needles and they used to have to sharpen them because they'd get blunt.
I think so, yeah.
And it was a pretty horrific experience in comparison to today. But you don't have any...
Well, when I got my diphtheria injection, I remember that was pretty... but then again, too, I think that the fact that my parents had complained, that might have been a bit rougher on me then, too. Yeah. But I mean, that was very painful. Yeah, it hurt a lot.
And did you ever have any... Sometimes I think kids who got quite sick or who looked malnourished and what have you, they would send away to sort of sanatorium type places where they... I think there was one down Campbelltown way, maybe in the mountains, where they would rest and they'd feed them up and all that. Did you ever have that kind of experience?
No, I had jaundice, as they called it, yellow jaundice in those days when I was fairly young, about 9 or 10, and I was sent to one at Camden.
Yeah. Well, tell us about that.
Well, to start with having an infectious disease, I was putting with adults because they didn't want to, there was less chance of them getting it than the children.
Is jaundice infectious?
Well, it was in those days. I mean, they have so many drugs these days that can cure things. Not, they couldn't in those days.
And what happened to you when you went to one of these places?
Well, it wasn't a very good experience because the kids at my age, they're all bigger than me and gave me a tough time. Plus I was very lonely. So I rang my parents up after a week and they come back and took me away. Because I wasn't getting much better anyway, apart from the illness.
And did they try and feed you up on nutritious foods and things?
Oh, reasonably good meals, yes, for the time. Nothing special, no special diets.
And what was their attitude to, because you came from, a working class sort of neighbourhood, were they patronising, like he's this poor starving kid, we've got to feed him up?
Something like that, yeah.
Wow, see that?
Well, they predict the thunderstorms for the night and possible rain,
So how did they treat you as if your parents didn't know how to look after you? I guess that's a sort of question I'm asking.
Oh, in a way, and just because the fact that you were poor, they just sort of didn't take you as a great deal of regard. I had complained sometimes about the way I was treated by the boys, and they just sort of ignored it. Didn't bother very much, or didn't come round to me very much at all.
Okay, look, you know how you said your parents were Irish, but did they...
No, they were Australian.
Australian, right, so they didn't associate with being Irish and...
No, not really.
And hate the British and the royal family and...
No, not really. I'm a Republican myself, very much anti-British.
But some Irish families maintained the anti-British, 1916.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But your family wasn't like that?
Oh, my grandmother was a bit biased against them. Her father had been in some Orange Lodge. They had the Catholics.
Her father did?
I think her father or grandfather, one of them.
But I thought yours was a Catholic family.
I know, the rest of us were, but he wasn't. I don't know how that worked out. Yes.
Right. At home, well, what sort of discipline was used if you were misbehaving?
Well, as I said, pretty severe, pretty well corporal, not a corporal punishment. Hit from the hand and the belt and things like that. Yeah.
Is that from both parents?
Yes, mainly from the father.
And was it your father who was expected to do the discipline?
Well, I don't know if he was expected, he just did it. I think in those days the father was the autocrat and he just did those things and that was it. The head of the house. Because in those days women didn't have many rights. Not like now.
And so he saw himself as the head of the house and he was the boss?
Yes. In his eyes anyway. Still then we had to take notice.
And did your mother recognise him as being the boss, sort of thing?
Oh, as far as the discipline that was concerned, yes. He was, after all, he's the breadwinner, I suppose, or something like that, yeah.
I can't remember what we were talking about. We were talking about experiences when people were sick. Can you remember other kids in the neighbourhood getting ill and seriously ill?
Oh, no, seriously. Well, they had their appendix and their tonsils and things like this, yes.
And when you had your appendix out in those days, how long were you out of action?
I think a week or a fortnight. A week, I think it was.
No, that's not too long.
No, but compared these days, you're in and out in a day or two, compared to yeah.
And did kids have many accidents? Like, did anyone get hurt, by cars playing in the street and that
Not
kind
so
of
much
thing?
cars, but you had scooters or tricycles and you fell off those. It's understandable, part of growing up. Skinned your knees and a few things like that, yeah.
But they weren't sort of different sort of injuries than one would get today?
Probably not, no.
Okay. Were you expected in the Depression, probably when you were a bit older, say 38, 39, 40, as an older kid, were you expected to contribute to the family in any way?
No, I didn't start work until I was 15. I was asked by my parents to keep going as long as I could at school to try and get an education.
So they didn't want you to, say, sell papers after school or...?
No, we used to collect newspapers and to go to the local butcher shop and sell them because they were wrapping and we get a penny a bundle. Big money in those days.
And that would be your money? Or would you have to give it to your mum?
No, I kept that. And then I used to take the garbage out twice a week and I got a penny a week for that. Big money in those days, of course.
And did you do anything else that sort of got money? Like
No. No, well, my parents wanted me to try and get an education because they didn't have one and they thought I might be able to get one.
So they were really encouraging?
Oh, not as encouraging, but this just said I should stay at school, that's all.
Okay. Okay. What did your family do for fun?
Nothing much. Most of my father drank and then came home drunk and went to bed.
But did
And
you
we
do
listened to the radio in those days. We did the big upright thing. Listened to various serials and things like this.
What were the cereals?
Oh, I can't remember now. So long ago.
And the kids would listen to the cereals as well?
Oh yes, as long as you're allowed to stay up. Yeah.
Did they have adventure stuff for kids or
Oh,
cartoons?
things. No, there was no cartoons. Oh, yeah, only if you went to see a movie, there was a cartoon on with that. But that was all.
But you can't remember any of your favourite cereals?
Not really, no. I think the Green Hornet. I think there was one.
What was that about?
Oh, some like earlier day Superman or something similar to that. One of these superheroes. Do all sorts of wonderful things. Yeah. And during the war, we had every Sunday they had a thing called the Great Gildersleeve. It was an American show. It was put on for the troops and the service people from America, and we found it quite entertaining. He's quite a comedian. Like a situation comedy.
Yeah. But did the family ever do anything together, as the whole family going out or...?
Oh, we went to the show every year, and so we went to football on Sunday afternoons, and then later on we used to watch the sailing races on the harbour, the 18-footers.
Oh, yeah.
But not a great deal together, no.
And what football team did you follow?
Oh, just a junior rugby league team, it was all in those days.
Was it
Rugby
South
league.
Sydney or...?
Oh yeah, of course we're close to South Sydney. We just went over and watched the Redfern Oval every weekend, watch the games there.
Right, and the team, you barracked for South Sydney, did you?
No, we mostly watched the juniors.
Oh yeah, and what was your team there that you really followed? Can you remember their names?
No, I can't remember them offhand now. So many have changed since those days, and as people moved out and that sort of thing.
And did you have any sporting heroes? Were you into sport at all?
Oh, I tried to play sport, but I wasn't very successful, being very small.
But did you have any idols?
No, not really. I just went to watch the games, that was all.
Yeah. You said before that you read a lot as a kid.
Still do.
Well, where did you get the books?
Oh, there was a library, and I think my parents bought me a few, occasionally. I think the books in the house anyway. I mostly listened to radio more than anything else.
And what did you like reading? Who are your favourite authors?
Well, in those days, you mean? Oh, I don't remember offhand, but I just read, that was all. And, I could read things like Treasure Island, and like all boys do, and things like that, But
Biggles?
yeah, I read comic books in those days, yeah.
Oh, what were the comic books?
Oh, a thing called Knockout and another thing called Radio Fun. They were English ones, and mostly they're comic strips and things like that. Yeah. There weren't many Australian comic strips in there. Oh, Ginger Megs, of course, in the newspapers.
So in the evenings, in a typical evening, you say you came home from school. When you came home from school, what would you do? Describe what would happen.
Oh, I'd have to do my homework as soon as I could.
Did your mum supervise you?
Yes, to a certain extent, yeah. But mostly they had things to do, getting dinner ready and things like that. And
And then what would happen?
Well, we'd have dinner, and then after we did it, you all joined in washing and drying the dishes, and then after that you just listened to the radio. And not much discussion.
When so in the evening the family would listen to a bit of the radio and then basically go to bed.
Yes.
Well, what about in summer? Would you go out and play in the streets?
Oh yes, yeah. At a certain time, about 8 o'clock, I think, or 9 o'clock.
Right.
The other boys, yeah.
And I'm just trying to think. Well, you know how you've said your father worked in the mattress factory?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that your father enjoyed his work? I mean, was he happy there?
I think so.
Right.
You seem to be, yeah. And it was closed. He lost his job.
Did he work long hours?
Yes. Oh, as I said, those days it was a 48-hour week and then the 44 hours. I think it was when I first started work, it was 44 hours.
And you know how you said that your mother worked at home?
Mm.
Well, what was her typical working day like?
Oh, just cooking or preparing the meals and cleaning and that's the thing, dusting and polishing and things like that.
But was it a long...
And shopping for the food that we needed.
What time would she be up in the morning?
Well, reasonably early because my father had to go to work early. There was
Right.
long hours in those days, as I said. Yeah.
And so would he get up to a cooked breakfast?
Yes, yeah. Summer or winter, he wanted hot meals, even at dinner. He was used to it when he was younger, and it didn't matter what the weather was like. He sat down to this big hot dinner. Everyone else wanted a salad, but not him.
And would he have like bacon and eggs or sausages and stuff? Like, would he have cooked meat and that for breakfast?
Oh, I think mostly eggs, maybe eggs and toast or something like that. Yeah. Because I didn't get up the same time as him, and because I went to school later.
And would your mum go to bed after him or before?
Oh, usually together.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get an idea of, because a lot of people say, oh, women don't work, they just stay at home, and then when you really start looking at their hours...
Yes, well, yes, had to pay them, we don't have a lot of money, I know that, yes.
Sorry. Yes, I'm just trying to get a notion of the hours. So did your mother have things like washing machines?
No, everything was hand washed. And no vacuum cleaner, you had to use a broom, the old millet brooms, or as we called them those days, straw brooms.
Did you have carpet?
No, I do not remember this, mostly I know.
And so would they have one day a week dedicated to washing, like doing the laundry?
Oh, I think it was just done as it was needed, more than anything else. Because with a few of us there, you needed to do it constantly. At an old copper, you used to have to fill it with water and put wood underneath and build a fire in it to get the hot water.
Well, where would you get the wood from?
Oh, you'd buy it. People come around, or mainly you bought it.
Did people sell a lot of stuff door to door in those days?
Yes.
What sort of things?
Well, there's one thing, you had a wire clothesline, so you need the clothes proper, like a tree branch with a fork in it, so you had to put that up under the whole the washing up. And sometimes they fell and you have to do it again.
And what else would be sold door to door? Or would be delivered to the home?
Oh, ice, because you had no fridge. You'd get about 2 boxes of ice a week.
Did you have an ice chest?
Yes, that's what we had.
So would you mostly do the shopping daily, or would you do... These days people shop you know, maybe once a week, or some people shop once a month. How did people organise their households?
I think it was mainly when it was needed. That's all. I can't remember too often because it didn't need the shopping hours you had now. Like, you know, the shops close at 12 o'clock on Saturdays. There's no Thursday night shopping.
So in people who lived in Darlington, where would they do their shopping?
Mostly Newtown.
Right. And was that in walking distance for you?
Oh, fair walk, but yes. Yeah.
But you would walk there to do it?
Yes, mostly, yeah.
Would your mum do it, or would your kids do it?
No, my mother.
Right. And I suppose what I'm wondering is, like, these days, you know, people do these huge shops. And I was wondering if at that time, you know, because people were carrying things probably in string bags or whatever,
yes,
that they would be, their shopping would be more often.
Yes, it was.
But in smaller trips.
Plus, you had the ice, so the food didn't keep there all that long. Not like if you keep it for weeks at a time now with the fridge.
And so your mum she would do that?
Yes, most of it.
So she would have been pretty busy.
Oh yes. Yeah. But see, I was away at school over daytime, so I didn't know much what went on.
Well, what about in the Christmas, in the holidays when you were around? What did you notice?
Well, I just noticed that she did the housework and the shopping, and there's frequent trips to the shops. Because you know, those days you had string bag or a lot of brown paper bags. Yeah, they gave you them.
And was there much exotic food around at that time?
It's only since people from other countries have come out here and introduced their food, which are very good, and mostly I think steak and eggs or steak and chips. That was the main thing. Boiled egg for breakfast.
In Darlington, you know, the neighbourhood. I mean, what was the racial or cultural mix there?
Oh, it was mostly people born in Australia.
Sort of Aussies, sort of Anglo-Aussies.
Yes, yeah. Didn't see too many people from other countries or Aboriginals or anything like that.
Really?
Well, the Aboriginals came from Redmond.
There were Aboriginals in Redfern at that time?
Oh, well, yeah, they've been there for a long time. In the 50s, they used to have a pretty good junior rugby league team from Harbour, the All Blacks. They were very successful.
Were there Aboriginal kids at your school?
No. They were all whites.
Well, thinking about the outbreak, thinking about the war years, what are the most significant events that stand out in your mind?
Oh, well, we remember the success of the Nazis and going through the other countries, and we were concerned because we were losing the war at the time. Then the Japanese come in, and you know, we were threatened. I remember people going away, men and many teenagers going away to war. We were almost concerned.
And was that characterised by, presumably some of those men didn't come back?
Yes.
Can you remember you know, the telegram boys or whoever it was that brought the news?
Well, one of my uncles.
Can you describe what happened?
Well, he was a prisoner of war in Borneo, and he just died, I think, of malnutrition and mistreatment and that sort of thing. And I remember the telegram coming, we were all crying, very upset.
Were people living in fear of the post office at that time?
I have to say so, yes.
Yeah.
He's in the medical corps as well. They still mistreated. I think they mistreated them more than the other ones because they could heal someone.
What was can you remember the night the Japanese bombed the ferry?
Sneaked the ferry with us, yes, yeah. Well, we didn't know anything much about it at night. We found out about it the next day.
Well, did you hear it, the explosion?
No, not where we were.
Right. Well, what
we
about...
had blackouts all the time. And if any slight show of light, the wardens come around and call out for you to put the light out or to cover it up.
Well, what about other things that happened in the war that didn't happen? Can you describe them?
Well, I remember occasionally they'd have a practice with the sirens, and you'd have to practice, taking shelter somewhere under the table or something like this, where you'd at least be likely to be injured. The wardens come around every night.
And what did they do?
Oh, just inspect the premises, like from the outside, to make sure everything was closed up and there'd be no light showing.
Was it a fun time?
Oh, no, not really, because you were concerned about the war, really.
But as a kid, you were actually worried?
Oh, well, to a certain extent I did, yes.
I mean, wasn't it, from a kid's point of view, it must have been pretty exciting to be sort of woken up in the night and...
Yes, as far as that was concerned, yes. Yeah.
Run off down to the air raid shelter. Were there any plans in your family for what would happen if the Japanese invaded?
Not our family. I think just the government sort of had their just general plan sort of thing. Yeah, that was it. Just the father being away, and we had to have the head of the house there.
Did the war have any long-term effect on your father?
Oh, just yes, because of what he saw. And he was in Darwin actually when it was bombed a couple of times, and that was pretty traumatic.
And what effect did it have on him?
Oh, I think it affected his nerves, possibly.
Did he come back crankier or more depressed?
He could have been crankier. Dear oh dear. No, but I think it just affected him that way, that was all.
Oh, what about your mum?
Oh, yes, she was worried with him being away, that's why.
Well, was it better when he came back?
What do you mean better?
Well, was it better with him away, or was it better when he came back?
Well, to me, it was because I didn't have the excessive discipline, I think. He didn't treat me any better once he came back.
And how did your position in the family change with your father off? You would have been the oldest male in the house.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't think it made much difference in those days. I think it just carried on, and that was it. The mother looked after the children, and that was it. And living with the grandmother. Well, she was more the head of the house, I think, than my father, in any case, whether he was there or not. Because it was her house, but she rented it, and we just paid her something.
Okay. Thinking about Darlington in the no, wait a minute. Let's go back to the war. You said before that you didn't have much contact with the Americans, is that?
No, I didn't personally. Occasionally they come around to the hotel near the corner of the street and drank there, and then went away.
Were they welcomed by the Australians? Were they heroes?
To my knowledge, they were, because they were helping us, yes. I didn't hear anything otherwise.
Well, thinking about Darlington, were there a lot of kids in the neighbourhood?
A fair few, yes.
Yeah. And what sort of a place was it for kids?
Oh, just actually a slum area, that's all. And the school that I attended, the public school there is still going.
Did the kids view it as a slum, or did they like it?
Oh, you didn't know any better. It was only when you moved out, as people got married and moved to other suburbs, you found out what it was like. But that's all you knew when you grew up, and you accepted it that way.
So you were happy there?
Oh, I was more happy as you could be. I could be anyway, yes, being a little home little boy, yes. I think generally children were, yes. But as I say, you didn't know any different life. You didn't go on holidays. Well, my parents couldn't afford that.
Did other people go on holidays?
Some did, yes. But not a lot because, as I say, because of going over the Depression days, you didn't have the money.
And what about in the early 40s?
Oh, but it wasn't a thing so much to go on holidays then. But not right now.
Would you go for days at the beach?
Yes, yeah.
Would your mum take you?
Oh, yes, and then in my 20s I used to go out to North Borneo Beach with a group of friends, out there every weekend.
Well, who were your friends when you were growing up there?
Oh, people I knew from school.
What were their names?
Oh, I just don't remember their names offhand. Now it's so long, and you meet so many people. Lucky you.
Well, what sort of things did you do with your friends in your spare time?
Oh, that's age of my 20s, or what? We went to dance. Oh,
no, when you were a kid.
Oh, with kids, we just played in the street, like chasings and hide and seek. That was mostly it.
Cricket?
No, I wasn't very good at cricket. I wasn't good at any sports, actually. Tried a bit of cricket, but mostly in the local park, that was all.
Did you have to be good at sports to be sort of popular?
I think it's the same even now. I mean, with The Simpsons, people still think a great deal of him.
Yeah. Well, so how did you spend most of your time?
Well, I said, for night time I played with the kids in the street. And then weekends I mostly just sat home and listened to radio. Or played out in the afternoons and like that.
Did you roam very far?
No. I don't think parents were pretty concerned about you going too far, and you just didn't. You took notice of them in those days.
And were the other kids free to roam?
Oh, no, mostly they were the same. You walked around, the immediate area, that was about all.
Did you have any relatives that lived in
Yes.
other... Where did your relatives live?
Pretty close to us.
So they were all...
Cousins, and, yeah.
Did you get together often with relatives?
No. We had one lot of relatives were reasonably wealthy even in the Depression days, and they didn't bother with us.
And where did they live?
Oh, fairly close, but I mean, it was, but they were better off than us. The father always had a job, and a good job.
What was considered to be a good job?
Oh, I mean, in those days, a job, and it was consistent. You didn't look like losing it, sort of thing. And when you got a job and you got paid every week, that was a good job.
Okay. Were there places that you weren't allowed to go?
Oh, not really, but just that you couldn't go too far away, and especially at night time.
Mm. Did you go to the pictures?
Yes.
Oh, whereabouts?
Oh, I remember at Newtown, or somewhere in the city.
Yeah, what theatre? Can you remember the names?
No. So,
What was your favourite movie from that time?
I didn't actually have a favourite movie. I used to like westerns. I think like any little boy, you wanted to grow up and be a cowboy. There'd be a serial on every week.
So how often would you go to the movies?
Once a week.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And usually...
Oh no, there was a theatre at Broadway. Just it's closed now. I think it's taken over by the university. That was a short distance away, closer than Newtown. We went there a fair bit.
Do you go to the movies at Newtown as well?
Occasionally, depending on what was on there.
What about things like roller skating and stuff like that?
Yes, yeah. In my teens, I was pretty good. I was very good roller skater.
Was this when you were a teenager?
Yeah, when I went to Newtown. I went up to Newtown there, and there's a roller skating rink there.
Whereabouts?
Oh, I can't remember now. Everything's changed so much. I haven't been that way for years anyway. I could probably point it out if I went past it.
Were there events like circuses and
yes.
What sort of things that kids would like come to the area?
I didn't come to the area, you travelled to them.
Oh, where would you see those? A circus, say?
I can't remember now if it was Wentworth Park or some park in a reasonably close area, yeah.
Do you remember any adventures that you had as a child?
I think I had adventures, but just mostly playing with the children and going to the pictures and the circus. And then, as I said, later on I started skating, roller skating.
What was the most look forward to time of year?
Oh, Christmas.
Yeah. And what was Christmas like at your house?
Oh, I didn't, like for presents, I didn't get a lot. Because parents couldn't afford them. I didn't know that at the time. I think Santa Claus bought them. But I didn't miss out on presents. Never missed. We had a bit extra food.
Did you get together with relatives at that time?
No, mostly it was with a big family. You just stayed amongst yourselves. I said, living with a grandmother and cousins, a cousin and that thing.
Now, you said you went to your primary school. You went locally. Well, what was your primary school experience like? What was it like?
Oh, I wasn't very good because the teachers were pretty tough, and because I was poor, they gave me a very tough time.
Was that a Catholic school?
Yes.
Were you taught by nuns?
Mostly lay teachers.
Really?
Women. And they're very severe, especially me being poor, and I got a tough time.
But they weren't nuns?
No.
But everybody would have been poor in Darlington at that time.
Yeah, but some had more than others. And we were just my father didn't have, we had constant work in those days.
But your
we
father wasn't
the books.
Oh, but he wouldn't have been unusual. Plenty of people would have been in that situation.
Oh yes, yeah, but there were some that had the money, and the teachers looked after their children more than the others.
Oh, pretty lousy.
Well, the former baseball manager in the States, known as the most aggressive, and he's the most successful, and he said good guys run last, and he's right.
Did most of the local kids go, where did most of the local kids go to school?
Oh, in Darlington, either at the Catholic school or the local public school. And then when I don't know where the others went when they got older, but I went to Mars Brothers at St Benedict's.
And what was that
Broadway.
like?
Oh, the brothers were pretty tough. They, living isolated guys, what the Catholics aren't allowed to marry, and have the home environment, and they were all pretty tough. They spent more time teaching you religion than your ordinary schoolwork.
Were there any people in your neighbourhood that you had to avoid?
I don't remember, no.
Okay, well, just asking some general questions. What sort of a neighbourhood was Darlington in the late 30s, early 40s?
What do you mean, what way?
Was it residential or industrial?
Oh, mostly residential, yes. And just up the top near Newtown there was a fruit factory, IXL fruit canning factory, made jams and things like that.
And was the university a big influence at that time?
Oh yes, because they own most of the property, and you never knew when they were going to take it over. Which they did when they got the funds later on. So you always knew that you could be asked to leave after a certain time.
Well, how did people feel about the university?
Well, it was never discussed with my parents, but I just knew in the background. By my parents, I'm sorry, but it was always in the back of your mind.
Did you ever think that you could study there?
I hoped to, yes. Well, I didn't make it, unfortunately.
Did you go and play in the grounds?
University ground, no, you weren't allowed to.
You weren't allowed to by whom?
Well, they just kept it, it was a university and they kept it outsiders out.
Did they have security?
Oh, well, we never thought about going over there, I suppose, that's all. You knew it was a university, you didn't go near it.
Was there a particular social focus at Darlington, a place where people met and talked and gossiped and got together?
Oh, there was, no, not in Darlington, there was a
Darlington, sorry.
Yeah, Darlington, there was a town hall nearby, but not close to where we lived. People didn't go there a great deal.
So was it a very united, cohesive sort of neighbourhood, or did people just live their own lives?
Yes, and there was a hotel on the corner and people spent a lot of time there. And, all the time I was there, it was only 2 Saturday nights, there wasn't a fight outside after closing time.
Sorry, wait a minute, can we just wait a minute?
Mm.
Sorry, we were talking about the neighbourhood. What were you know the neighbourhood, was it, you're saying that it was the local pub where people met?
Well, they drank there, that was all. I didn't socialise. In those days you didn't socialise in hotels like you do now, or clubs.
What do you mean?
No,
Wouldn't they talk over a drink?
Oh yes, that was about all.
Were women welcome there?
No, not so much in those days.
So that was a men's meeting place?
Yes, yeah.
And did you say something about fights at the pub?
Yes, in the 26 years I lived there was only 2 Saturday nights. There wasn't a fight outside the pub on closing time. And we walked out and couldn't understand what was happening. There was no fight. There was no fight.
Did you used to watch these fights?
Yes.
And why were they so regular? What was it about it?
Oh, probably the drink affected them. I don't know whether they talked about politics or sport and disagreed or what it was. And no one ever knew, but they just fought.
And when you grew up, did you join in this ritual?
Oh, I didn't go to that hotel very much. I went to one around a couple of streets away and had a few drinks with my father.
People used to come out and watch the fights?
Yes. Very good Saturday night entertainment.
Would people get hurt?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And what about the
Pretty
police?
violent fights. Oh, they'd eventually be called, but but I think it was all over by then.
Can you remember any local characters?
Oh, we didn't really have any. Just people just went around, lived their ordinary lives, and there's nothing special. No one special.
Were there any crims in the neighbourhood?
Well, I didn't know of being young and that sort of thing.
Okay. Would you say it was a safe neighbourhood?
Well, I think it was safe. It could be for those times, yes.
Well, what wasn't safe about it?
Well, as I say, I don't think anything really unsafe, but just that there weren't any break and enters or things like that.
And where did most people work?
Oh, in factories in the suburbs mainly, and some in the city, but not too many. Those days you mostly worked in the close by.
In the surrounding suburbs?
Yes.
Okay.
And my father worked at Camden. He walked over there and back.
And what smells can you remember?
Nothing really special. Because the nearest place I could smell was a jam factory, and you could smell that all the time.
Okay. What impact did the car have on your lifestyle?
Well, we'd never had a car.
Okay. All right. What's your happiest memory?
Oh, I think mostly Christmas. That's about all, yeah.
The saddest?
Too many to remember.
Yeah.
Being a small boy. Oh, one of them would be losing my brother with the diphtheria.
Okay. I'd like to finish up there.
Sure, okay. Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem at all.
Ah.
Hope I've been helpful.
Yes, you have.
Oh,